I'm going to tell you the three things that I think about when I think about the curling club, caricaturing a little bit because it's for the presentation. But I think about drinks after the club. I think about potlucks. And I think about a lot of white folks.
Yeah, it's kind of a similar question from me about the drinking example. When you brought that up, you kind of mentioned how, drinking can be a really great thing. It makes people more comfortable in social situations, fosters community, but it can be a negative thing. It can make people feel a little bit uncomfortable if they don't want to partake in it. Do you have any suggestions on how to navigate things like that, where there's both a good and a bad side, and it's not necessarily a right or a wrong thing, but just how to navigate that, I guess?
Yeah, something we tried out in the curling club that I'm in this year was there's like a chalkboard that we put in. It's like the drink of the week and it costs a little bit less. And we always had one that was like alcoholic, one that was like virgin. And we found that a really good way of, it was advertised, and two, people could just very easily say like, oh, this one sounds cool, I'll try it. And it became less about the alcohol and kind of the like coolness of the drink. And so starting to kind of socialize discussions about drinks that are not necessarily around alcohol, it's a really small thing, but suddenly people, maybe even people who are drinking will want to try it because it looks cool. And, like the bartender would have fun trying to come up with these drinks that they could make that were non-alcoholic. And it was a really fun way to get creative about, about drinking and making it less daunting of just like, I'm taking the boring Perrier or whatever. But it becomes something that's fun, and it's something that like a subject of discussion. And, we ended up having tons of good discussions about the non-alcoholic drink that was on the board, and not because it was non-alcoholic, but because it was fun. I think that, there's also the ways to ask, can I buy you a drink is not necessarily linked to alcohol, but it definitely has the connotation. Some people, when they knew I didn't drink, would say like, can I buy you a juice, and that felt nice because it was like, it felt like somebody was making a step in the right direction. And they weren't making assumptions because I'd known them for years and years. But maybe changing the language, and, goes back to language matters, is there something that we can do to change a little bit of the way we ask those questions to make it more open in the first place, so that we're not putting somebody into a box to be like, now I have to tell you why I don't drink, and it's a lot. And so yeah, that's what my thoughts are for now.
Yeah, honestly, you're so smart. I wish we did this already. Like, it's a no-brainer to me. And also I'm sure Sarah and I would love to have you back for a language talk sometime if you're interested. Think about it.
I'll definitely, I'm not going anywhere. I'm excited to keep working.
Just on the flip side of the drink conversation, I for a long time would just because it was the norm, I would buy people drinks, and then I got to the point where my teammates would buy them drinks, and I would like buy my teammates dinner or something. And then I got to the point where I guess I was comfortable enough in myself that I realized I don't have to buy somebody else alcohol, but that took a long time for me. And so I started just offering, after games, can I offer you something non-alcoholic to drink? So some people to this day in the club that I've curled in for 17 years, I still get dirty looks sometimes. I still get some weird comments sometimes, but most people have gotten to the point where they're like, if they want something alcoholic, they'll get it themselves. Otherwise they'll tell me something non-alcoholic. But I really like your fun non-alcoholic drink idea. But I think there's still a cultural shift that will take a generation at least for people to not expect you. And maybe it's just an Eastern Ontario, Quebec type thing, but maybe like that it's going to take time for people to realize that they are not, what's the word I'm looking for? Basically, it's not a right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for bringing that. Thank you for sharing your experience and bringing that up. The other thing, I don't know if this is the norm in all curling clubs, we also have snacks. So sometimes people will buy me like a bag of chips or something like that. And so there's also that could be, like, can I buy you a snack? That could be a way of, of incorporating something that feels more inclusive.
It was just a comment really on the culture change on drinking. So in Scotland, maybe 5 years ago, they changed the drink driving laws. So essentially, it's zero tolerance. It's essentially if you have a small glass of wine and you get pulled over, you're in big trouble. And there was a lot of discussion in the ice rinks thinking, oh, how's that going to affect us? And actually, it's amazing how quickly the culture's changed. And some of these conversations about people expecting an alcoholic drink after a game, it really struck me that we thought that was going to be a massive challenge, but now it's the norm to have a non-alcoholic drink, and the social side is still there. So I think it's really impressed me how quickly that culture's changed. And I know it's for different reasons, but I think there's hope for the future that the curling club can still have that excellent social environment without the need to have an alcoholic drink.